Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. This is an essay I've just written called Education Reinvented, maybe the most important essay I've ever written. No institution has a greater gap between its promise and its reality than education, both for high and low ability kids. For example, the achievement gap is as wide as ever. And by the way, there are the text version of this, which will be on medium.com, has links to all of these statistics that I'm asserting. For example, the achievement gap is as wide as ever, and at the current rate, it wouldn't close until the mid-22nd century. And today's college grads have notoriously poor writing and thinking skills. Here are 6 barriers to excellent education, and I believe I'm going to offer here true solutions. First barrier is the teachers. Candidly, teachers are not underpaid for who they are and the amount of hours the union has negotiated. They work less than half the year's days, typical school year is 177 to 180 days, and the students are gone by 3 o'clock or earlier on what are called minimum days. Yes, teachers have to be able to control a class, and they have to be able to teach basic subjects, but the required knowledge is small compared with that of most professional jobs. It's little surprise that the College Board found that among 36 majors, future teachers have among the lowest SAT scores. And while some teachers enter teaching for an idealistic reason, many are attracted to lifetime job security after just 2 or 3 years. Not a good screen for excellence. An answer lies in what I call super courses. Take algebra, a course with the perfect storm of being difficult, a pool of teachers who aren't known for being the best communicators, nor having the most emotional intelligence. Now imagine that every child could, online, get one of the world's best teachers, clear, fascinating, entertaining, indeed transformational. Well, with fast internet ubiquitous, that's possible. And pair such a teacher with a gamifying techie, and you get individualization and a motivating experience for all students, and it can be translated into any language. Super courses would enable every child, rich and poor, from Alabama to Zululand, to get best possible instruction at dramatically lower cost than to pay the pool of 246,000 algebra high school math teachers in the U.S. alone. To mollify the teachers' union, at least in the pilot phase of super courses, the lessons in super courses could be used merely as homework to be assigned by in-classroom teachers. The second barrier to excellence in education is how students are grouped. Before the education system prioritized redistribution to low achievers, most classes had been grouped by student ability. Now, mixed ability classes are the norm. It's much more difficult for teachers to try to meet the needs of all kids in such a class, which often consists of developmentally disabled kids and gifted kids in that class, native speakers of English and newcomers in that class, well-behaved and disruptive kids in that same class. Imagine that you wanted to learn beginning Mandarin, and let's assume all the kids were of, let's say, average intelligence and behavior. But you had a choice between a class for beginners or a class with beginners, intermediates, and native speakers of Mandarin. Well, most people would wisely choose the former, the class for beginners if you're a beginner. Yet today, politics often trumps pedagogy. So the schools have done the opposite. Until which time, if ever, that the school system adopts super courses, which would reduce the need for ability group classes because they're so individualized, we must restore ability group classes if we are to walk our talk about caring that children learn and not score near the bottom among developed nations. A third barrier to excellence in education is the curriculum. Not surprisingly, educators genuflect before people with lots of education, that is, PhD-toting professors. So, curriculum is largely selected by them, a group who by disposition and training believe their discipline is of great importance down to its arcana. Hence, even though the large majority of students will never in their entire lives use quadratic equations nor stochastic processes, such difficult concepts content is mandated for nearly all school children. The tiny percent of K-12 students who will need such material can learn it in college. And much of the curriculum has been reallocated to diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. Few people favor the opposite, monoculture, inequity, and exclusion, but all the class time spent on that obvious stuff means less time on what will make students better readers, better writers, with good numeracy and critical thinking skills. Curriculum should be chosen by a range of real-world people, including students, not ivory tower scholars, maybe a few ivory tower scholars. No doubt, real people would replace much of the aforementioned low-relevance material with what students want and need to know, and that most teachers would rather teach. Yes, the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, but also the likes of conflict resolution, financial literacy, and career planning. Another barrier against excellence in education are government mandates. The multi-layered and metastasizing education bureaucracy mandate head-shaking amounts of regulations and reporting. A teacher's behavior is governed by regulations from the principal, the school district, the county, interstitial entities, you ever hear of, for example, a SELPA, the state, and the federal government. The porcine bureaucracy extends to the college level. For example, Stanford, with a 4-year sticker price of $350,000 per child, now has 6 times as many administrators as students, and more administrators than faculty. It would seem obvious that if those billions spent on administrators went directly to the classroom, K-12 and in college, students would learn more, enjoy more, and more teachers wouldn't leave the profession. Today, 44% of teachers, having consumed years of teacher training and years of experience, leave the profession within 5 years. A few decades ago, the federal government had a good idea. To try to shrink its mammoth bureaucracy, it would do zero-based budgeting, start from scratch. Imagine what would happen if the entire federal, state, county, and district bureaucracy were eliminated and the money went directly to each school. Even most of the bureaucrats would agree that everyone would benefit, that is, everyone except all those bureaucrats would have to look for a job. And a final barrier to excellence in education is the teachers' union. That union is among America's most powerful, and it has wrested from the taxpayer amazing deals for teachers. Despite most teachers being far from, let's say, AI software engineers, they get the aforementioned short school day and short school year, lifetime tenure after just 2 or 3 years, and teaching is among the few jobs where they get full employer-paid benefits and a pension. Even most corporate executives don't get such a life. In fact, most of them work almost every day of the year and well into the night. And if a teacher burns out after those 2 or 3 years, dismissing a teacher is nearly impossible. The union has installed such onerous, quote, due process that most principals decide that kids would benefit more by transferring the bad teacher where he or she will do the least harm and instead work with better teachers, parents, and to have the time to do all that mandated compliance work. Children are too important to be controlled by a union that cares so little about them that because teachers found it more convenient to teach from home, used its muscle to mandate remote non-learning when the data indicated that students would learn more and be healthier mentally and physically if instruction were back in school. We need a law outlawing teachers' unions, just as we have laws restricting unionization in legislatures. For example, it is illegal for employers of the California legislature to unionize. Federal congresspeople are prohibited from unionizing. Even Congress's 10,000 staffers are, except for one office, not unionized. If legislators and staff are too important to unionize, are not our children. Education has metastasized into a giant blob that poorly serves our children, our future. This essay, this article, offers solutions, real solutions. They mainly just require voters to vote out the entrenched legislators and politicians who aren't brave enough to withstand the heat from the unions on the left and from the traditionalists on the right. In any event, this essay is called Education Reinvented, As always, I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.